Today, my brothers and sisters, we are challenged by God. He tells St. Peter, "Put out into deep water and lower your nets for a catch." This is difficult. Peter and his business partners could have questioned the logic of this command. And Peter says, "We've worked hard all night." See, fishing was done at night. Of course, you catch the fish by surprise, catching them in your net. These huge 500-yard long nets. Took 4 guys to just lower it. That's why it was so amazing to mend nets. You had to put them back together, sew them back together, continue to mend them, lowering them, raising them. It took a lot of work. But St. Peter and the other disciples, they don't question it. St. Peter says, "At your command, we'll lower the nets. We've worked hard. We've tried. We didn't catch anything. But at your command, we'll lower the nets." This is a conundrum. Because, my brothers and sisters, we too work hard. We too labor. But are we going out into deep waters to labor? Deep waters is risky, right? If you've ever seen documentaries on the Holy Land, you know that at night, to go sail, it was risky. And these fishermen went out all night and caught nothing, no fruit of their labor. And yet, Jesus says, in daylight, we're going out to deep water and we're going to lower the nets and you're going to catch something. Jesus wasn't a fisherman. Do you see the logic in this? "You must be crazy, Lord, but at your command, I'm going to lower the nets." Peter obeys. Obeys. Purely out of faith. Now Peter says, "At your command, I'm going to lower the nets." They dismiss out of their minds those considerations that normally would have told them that fishing was not advisable. What sets them to work again is Peter's faith. James and John, Andrew, the business partners with Simon Peter, they trust Peter's word and they lower the nets. Simon simply obeys the master's command and trusts, and a miracle occurs. This poses a problem for us, my brothers and sisters, because how often are we obeying the Lord, what He's commanding us to do? Put out into deep waters. Or are you staying in the shallow waters where your feet can stay on the ground, where you have control? Are we going out into deep waters and going fishing? Because the Lord just said to all His disciples, "You will be fishers of men. Do not be afraid. Put your trust in me. Obey my word, my commandments." Or do we like to control things, stay where it's safe, evangelize where it's safe, where it's convenient, where my feet are still on the ground? This miracle occurs. And Peter recognizes that he is a sinful man, that he's not worthy to see this miracle, to be a disciple of Christ. But Jesus says to him, "Do not be afraid." We see it also in our second reading, in our first reading. Isaiah before St. Peter said, "I am a man of unclean lips, living amongst unclean people." But God intercedes, purifies Isaiah. What does St. Paul say in our second reading? He says, "I am what I am. I'm one born abnormally. I'm not even fit to be called an apostle." because I persecuted the church. I killed your disciples, Jesus. But his grace in me has been effective. Indeed, I toiled hard. I preach. But it's God preaching through me. I am what I am. I know I'm sinful. St. Paul says in another of his letters, he says, I boast of my weaknesses because they show the power of God. I know I'm weak. Depart from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man. But Jesus says, no, I am not going to leave you. Be not afraid. Put your trust in me, because now you're going to be fishers of men. Each one of us, my brothers and sisters, can identify with these three figures because God progressively enters into our life. Sometimes he does it with miracles, but most of the time it's just the day-to-day life. With each vocation, God enters deeply into each one of us. Often his grace leads us to make decisions on a daily basis for or against him. And he works through those natural events, those little things in our life, because that's where we're called to holiness. According to our vocation, according to our state in life, God says, I will work miracles. Put your trust in me. Put out into deep waters in your workplace, with your family, with your friends, at your Super Bowl party. Put out into deep waters. What's going to differentiate your Super Bowl party, you who are a disciple of Christ, a Catholic Christian, from Joe Schmo's Super Bowl party? What's going to be different? Because you're different. You're a disciple of Christ. We are disciples of Christ. And sometimes we take that action of God for granted. We think God's going to do all the work for us. I went to Mass, I went to confession today, so God's going to just do great things in my life. Well, it takes work. St. John, St. James, St. Andrew, St. Peter, they had to lower the nets. Jesus didn't lower the nets for them. They've got to work. They've got to catch the fish. Of course, he's going to work through them and perform this miracle, but he makes them work. So it is with us, my brothers and sisters. The reality is that we are weak, we are sinful, like St. Peter, St. Paul, like Isaiah, like the saints who have gone before us, and we might just be afraid. But his love and mercy endure forever. As Pope Francis said, God's mercy is the force that reawakens us to new life and instills in us the courage to look to the future with hope. Turn on any news station today, there will be zero hope. Criticism, negativity, coming after this person or that person. You are called to bring hope to this world, to bring light to the darkness. You are called to work. And for us who are preachers, woe to us if we don't preach it. If by my life you don't see God's mercy, if I don't reach out to these brothers, how am I going to reach out to you guys? If I don't live it in my own life, if I don't listen to this homily and change my life, transform my life to manifest God's mercy, to go out into the deep, to make things uncomfortable for myself by preaching the gospel, woe to me. I'm a whitewashed tomb, brood of vipers, like the Pharisees before me. I've got to change my life. And guess what? This world is under attack. You know that. You're under a barrage of attacks. Masculinity is under attack. Fatherhood is under attack. Femininity is under attack. Motherhood is under attack. What are you going to do about it? In your life, in your circle of family and friends, what am I going to do about it? Maybe this means, at the base level, I got to go to confession more often. Every 3 months isn't cutting it anymore. Maybe I got to go back to confession. Maybe I need to make an examination of conscience more often. Maybe I need to start saying the act of contrition every single night. It'll transform your life. It transformed the lives of those who encountered Christ before us. The Gerasene demoniac was healed, right? Jesus cast out the demon of him that was afflicting him. And then this man goes to Jesus and says, I'm going to follow you. And Jesus says to him, what? Not come and follow me. He says, go back to your family, all your friends. Go and tell them of what the mercy of God has done for you. Those are words that hit us home. God is calling us to go out into the deep, my brothers and sisters. And as we prepare for this Lent, make it the best Lent of your life. In the year of mercy, God's grace is abundant. His love and mercy endure forever. What are you going to do? Are you prepared for Lent? Am I giving up chocolate? Am I giving up sweets? Am I giving up Facebook? You want to transform your life? Delete all the apps on your phone. What? It would transform your life. Because then at work, you wouldn't be looking at Facebook. When your kids are playing, you'd actually watch them. It's not enough to give up Netflix. Turn off the computer. In this year of mercy, we've got to go to the nth degree. We've got to give more, my brothers and sisters, because we're not just looking for guppies. We are looking for men, fishers of men, the prodigal children of this world. That's what Pope Francis is calling us to do. Go out into this world. Go out into the deep, where it's uncomfortable, to the fringes of society. And sometimes the fringes are right outside your front door. What is God calling you to do this Lent? What is God calling me to do this Lent? It's a question that each one of us has to answer. We are called to be fishers of men in deep waters. So in that deep water of evangelization, we should always be ready to let down our nets. In the deep waters of our daily activities, in the deep waters of putting into action God's mercy, in the deep waters of our prayer life, don't settle for guppies. Go into deep water where the harvest is abundant, but the laborers are few. My brothers and sisters, today's the day. We are preparing for Lent. Lent is this Wednesday. So as we receive Jesus today, let us ask him, ask God that he will give us courage to put out into deep waters, the deep waters of his mercy, putting our trust in his command, in his word made flesh. He tells us, do not be afraid. From now on, you will be fishers of men. And then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? Who will go for us? Here I am, I said, send me.